I've been living like an animal for 13 years, so here's why. This video, I'm gonna move my camera down here. This video came up on my recommendeds yesterday. I wanted to watch it, and it magically appeared in my Reddit. So whoever put it in there, thank you. Let's take a listen.
Hey guys, it's me, and today I want to answer a question that a lot of people have been asking me my whole life, and more importantly, they've been asking me a lot recently, especially online.
I wonder why he's filming this on his phone in front of his computer. Instead of using his really nice microphone and camera, he's using his phone so the audio sounds like tinfoil. Okay, anyway, let's get in the video.
And that question comes in many forms, but it always distilled down to the same thing, which is, in one form or another, why are you like this? Whether it's the dead rat alarm clock, the barbecue puke shower curtain, dead animals in the house, or any other one of the stories that are just an indicator of me living like a complete fucking animal, people always wonder, why would a person live like this? Why would a person be like this? Why am I like this? And I think that honestly, you know, there's a lot of answers for this. I really don't want to make this like a super long video. So
35 minutes, by the way. Hype.
Hopefully I can distill it down to some main points and not really go off on too many tangents, although I think that I probably will, because there's a lot of like history with it and everything like that. And so basically the first thing you need to know about me is that I actually, if you can believe this, I know this might sound shocking, is that I actually have not always been like this. This is a relatively new thing for me.
Oh, wow.
And
that is shocking.
I think that it really kind of started a lot when I would say in high school, and then later on it kind of entered phase 2, and that was probably somewhere around 21 or 20.
Phase 2, it's like a WoW boss. What are we on now? Like phase 3 or 4? This is crazy. Yo, soon, thanks for the prime.
Somewhere around there in those age groups. And that's whenever, you know, the degeneracy really kind of went, you know, it ratcheted up to the next level. I leveled up, new expansion release, DLC, etc., right? And so this happened then, because as a kid, I was actually very much like a very conscientious kid in the way that I basically didn't really want to be perceived in a negative way. I wanted to be seen as a good person, etc. And
I feel like we're all more like that as kids, and when we get older, it's like, yeah, I don't care if you like me or dislike me. This is kind of how I'm gonna be, you know. But when we're younger, it's like, I want everyone to like me. You know?
I've always had a big problem with being able to like relate to other people because I think that I'm just a little bit off, right? I wouldn't say that I don't have a moral compass, but I would say that my moral compass doesn't point north. And this has been a problem in a lot of cases.
Wait, did you say his moral compass doesn't point north? I'm going back a sec.
Off, right? I wouldn't say that I don't have a moral compass, but I would say that my moral compass doesn't point north. And this has been a problem in a lot of cases in my life, whether it's with relationships or friendships or anything in between. I've had a lot of problems because of that. And in the process of this, I've learned a lot of things about myself. And the main thing is that my take and my view on moral issues is not really what I would say a normal person thinks. And this has caused me a lot of problems. And especially like as a young kid, you know, being able to like interact and fit in with people, it's a weird dichotomy because the truth is I actually always did have a lot of friends, and I never had problems making friends. But at the same time, I always felt like I was very different from a lot of other people because of the way that I felt. I used to have, for a comparison, just a point of reference, I guess you could say, I used to have my mom read me all of the different like sins in the Bible and everything, because I understood, even as a little kid, I'm like, there's something wrong with you. You know, like you better learn this so that way there aren't any problems in the future. And so I would have her read all of these to me. That way I would understand how to behave, right? Because it just never came naturally to me. Things that come naturally to other people were not natural and are not natural. It's not like things have changed. If anything, they've probably gotten worse as I've gotten older. And so I've always had a big problem being able to like you know, understand like where, you know, how you should act, how you should treat people, what you should do, how you should say things, etc. So almost everything that I do is a learned performance rather than an innate social, I don't know, like
That's really interesting to me. I'm under the general impression that most people, like, deep down inside know when they're doing something wrong. You kind of feel it. You know, no one had to like teach you. You're doing it, and if something feels dirty, something feels wrong, you kind of stay away from that. And when you do something righteous or whatever, you kind of feel like that was the right thing to do, right? You kind of just feel that. It doesn't need to be taught. It's just in there. I'm under the impression that's generally how it is, but maybe I'm gravely mistaken. Maybe there's people that don't feel that way, but I feel like that's been my worldview, so to speak, right?
Instinct, if that makes sense. And hopefully the performance is good. I consider myself kind of a good actor, at least, right? But of course there are going to be cracks and outtakes as well. And so those are usually in the form of the Twitter clips with 100,000 likes. And so anyway, as a kid, I was always treated this way, and you know, people thought that I was a little bit off, a little bit weird. Like one time, like for example, there was a kid that I was like playing the baseball with him, and he was annoying me, making me mad. And so I hit the ball, and I hit it with the explicit intention of hitting him in the face with the ball, and I did. And so I remember there's blood all over the kid's face. He like broke his tooth and everything.
No.
And everybody was standing around like what the fuck? Like what? This is like terrible. And I remember walking up. This was like the best day of my fucking life. This happened.
Really? Wow.
And I was so happy. Okay. And I could see that other people were made very uncomfortable around this.
Yeah.
And that's whenever I started trying to like really kind of mask my emotions and how I felt about things, because it was very evident to me that I was not really normal. And this has been, again, a huge problem my whole life, but that was pretty much the first, at least the time that I can remember in my mind, the first time that I can remember that and see that, wow, this didn't go over the way that I thought it would go over, because I was so happy and nobody else is happy and they think I'm like a bad person. But it's like, you know, from my perspective, that's not how I saw it. And, you know, from my perspective, rip bozo. So this is a big problem. And this happens in...
Let me just get a quick one in the chat if you guys have had an experience just like that, where you do something and the outcome was just completely different. You're happy and everyone else is like, dude, what the hell? 2 in the chat if you've never really experienced anything like that. Like, you kind of knew if you were doing something mischievous, you were going to get some looks. Oh, so it's a pretty decent split. Interesting. I feel like for me, I feel like I'm maybe more of a 2. Like, I feel like if I'm doing something that I know I probably shouldn't be doing, people are probably gonna give me a hard time for it. And if I'm not, then I probably won't. I'm trying to think of an instance in my life where I've been a 1, where I've like done something and I'm just like, all right, that was great. I mean, I'm sure it's happened. I would just have to really sit down and think about it. I'm sure it's happened, but nothing really comes to mind. Yeah, I'm sure there's been instances if I really sat down and thought about it though.
Middle school as well, I cared a lot about like how I looked, how I dressed, etc. in middle school. I mean, really, who doesn't? And you know, I really tried to you know, like take myself seriously, and you know, I tried to have a good impression, etc. Do the right things, say the right things, wear the right things, be the right kind of person. And going into high school, I kind of got there's a weird thing where like I ended up going to like one high school that I didn't want to go to, and then I ended up going to another high school after that, after I told my parents that if they didn't change me over, I would kill myself and fail every single class. Which, to be I was halfway followed through with that, because my first semester in that high school, I had a GPA of a 0.08. It was actually impressive. It was hard to do. I had to go out of my way for this. And so then I ended up getting transferred over, and I went to the school where my friends were. And I think that like the high school that I had originally gone to was a much more superficial, much more like, you know, like a higher class high school, because my dad wanted me to go there because, you know, like he wanted me to go to school to get an education. Imagine that. I wanted to go to school to hang out with my friends. So there was a bit of a disconnect there. And so I go over to the other school, and I realized that I need to stop caring about what people think about me, because I saw the people that were in that other school, and I realized that's not the kind of person that I wanted to be, because they were the more extreme version of the person that I was trying to be. And at that point, I realized that I didn't really want to be like other people, and I had to develop, I guess, my own identity. And this was at like, I would say 14 or 15. And that happened, and that continued all the way through high school.
It is kind of a cool chance when that life throws at you, when you get to like kind of reinvent yourself a little bit. So what I mean by that is, like, if you guys have lived in your hometown before with the people that you grew up with, they kind of see you as the person that you grew up as. And then say you leave to college, you move to a different town for say 5, 10, 15 years, and then you come back and you're like a whole different person. Like, you know, you're completely different, but you come back and people still kind of treat you like that same kid. And oftentimes the advice people give you is kind of like, well, you want to leave and get to a new circle because you need to break out of that, right? And it's kind of cool when you get to just completely reinvent yourself and be like, no, this is kind of who I am and who I always wanted to be. I'm not really that person anymore, right? That's happening to me now. It's a cool opportunity. But sometimes what happens is you're given the opportunity to completely reinvent yourself, and you reinvent yourself as the same person you were before, and you realize, man, maybe this is who I am. And that gets really deep really fast, because it's like, oh crap, I didn't like who I was. I moved. No one knew who I was. I reinvented myself and I became the same person. Anyway.
And, you know, I was always like, you know, I never really had a girlfriend, right, in high school or anything like that. Maybe, you know, I talked to a girl, but not really, okay? And so I was never really treated very well by, you know, a lot of girls or anything like that. And big surprise, imagine that. And so anyway, this happened, and you know, I kind of got used to this, and it was normal. So I would try to improve myself and, you know, like make myself look better and try to do this, and it would just be met with the same outcome, which was a massive failure. Big surprise. You know, being a level 60 warrior isn't as attractive to women as it is to other 16-year-old guys. And so,
dude, I feel like I have a unique experience with this, or maybe it's not that unique. I don't know. In high school, in middle school, I feel like every guy kind of wanted like a girlfriend and like attention from women. For me, I cared about arenas in World of Warcraft. In college, I cared about streaming and playing and farming noobs on the ladder to rank 1. I really didn't care that much about women until I got older, and then I was like, okay, well, yeah, this is gonna be pretty critical. But when I was in middle school and high school, and even like most of my college, like I just didn't care, you know. I really didn't. I don't know. Is that weird, or is anyone else like me? Because I feel like most other guys, like this was like a pretty big deal, you know, dressing a certain way, you know, working out to like look a certain way to try to attract women. I never took part in any of that, really. You're just a late bloomer. I was a late bloomer. I definitely was a late bloomer. I don't know. I just never thought about I never really thought about it. I'm gonna be honest. I was just doing my thing. I don't know.
Well, anyway, I had this happen, and, you know, I eventually kind of got to the point where I was more comfortable with that, and I stopped really caring as much about what, you know, like people would think about me, and, you know, in general, just like people's perception of me. And this kind of got worse as time goes on, and I think that I spent like my teenage years primarily trying to disconnect myself and trying to remove myself from the obligation to be a certain kind of person to the public and just to society in general. I viewed society as you know, I never chose to be here. This was not up for discussion. I just spawned in here, and so it's like I have to follow these rules. I have to do all these things. I have to be this kind of a person. And then, you know, when I was like 17, 18, 19, I asked myself, well, why am I doing this? And so I stopped doing all of that stuff, and I've done many degenerate things, none of which I regret. Nothing at all in my life that I've ever regretted at all. But you know, I would do things that a lot of people would consider to be very improper. Let's just say that. And so I never really viewed myself, I never really viewed it as like a good or a bad thing. I just, you know, simply existed, and I did what I would do. And that was it. And at that point, I pretty much had completely disconnected myself from the perception of other people. And this was at the same time, like growing up, my mom was, I think there was maybe 2 years or so where she made above the poverty level in terms of income. And so we basically barely skated by most of the time. And primarily the reason for that, honestly, is because my dad always paid child support, etc., at least until I was 18. And all that time, she was able to skate by with that and pretty much survive. After high school was over, then obviously like that stopped, and then she wasn't able to support herself, so I was having to figure out ways to make money and try to like piece together money. She would borrow money sometimes from my dad, and it was in general like a very, very negative situation, and so we never really had any money. This was the time where I was pretty much ironically at the peak of my degeneracy. I was probably one of the highest rated warriors in WoW at the time. It was great.
That is what peak performance looks like, my friends. There it is, rank 1.
But
okay.
not necessarily in real life.
Goodness
and so
gracious.
at this point, I had pretty much completely disconnected myself from the way that people saw me. And I stopped caring about the way that people saw me because I pretty much gave up on being like a normal person. I gave up on being accepted by the public. I gave up on living a normal life or, having a family or anything like that. I just felt like I just was not capable of that based off of my experiences that I had. And I had many other ones too.
Someone in the chat said, this dude keeps pulling his hair to the left and then immediately moves it back to the right. You know what's interesting? If you've never recorded yourself and talked in front of a camera for like 15, 20, 30 minutes and then watched it back, we all have weird tendencies that we do unless you've spent time to unlearn them. And like I used to do this thing where I would go like this, and I never noticed I was doing it. I think I do it less now, or hopefully not much at all, until I watched back one of my YouTube videos and I'm like, what am I doing? What is that? And then I like had to purposefully like retrain my brain to not, like I never was aware. Anyway, my point is we all do stuff like this. It's not that weird, but you really only know if you spend a lot of time in front of a camera and then watch it back and then look and see like, what are my little annoying things that I do? You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised.
Like I stabbed somebody and a few other things too. I probably wouldn't even say because they would too drastically alter people's perception of me. But either way, a lot of these instances where I kind of was like, okay, this is bad. Maybe it's better that I'm quarantined in my house. And so anyway, I did this a lot, and my mom and
I was reading chat for a second. And I missed, and then everyone's saying, wait, hold up. I have to go back. I have to go back a second. I missed that. I'm going back. All right.
Alter people's perception of me. But either way, a lot of these instances where I kind of was like, okay, this is bad. Maybe it's better that I'm quarantined in my house. And so anyway,
was it further back? Okay, I thought I went really far. Okay, let's go here.
Capable of that based off of my experiences that I had, and I had many other ones too. Like I stabbed somebody and a few other things too. I probably wouldn't even say because they would too drastically alter.
Wait, what do you mean? Stab someone? Was it self-defense? Like I need to know more about what's going on. What do you what? You never know the full story, so we give them the benefit of the doubt, I guess. But yeah, I mean I don't know. Jeez.
Alter people's perception of me. But either way, a lot of these instances where I kind of was like, okay, this is bad. Maybe it's better that I'm quarantined in my house. And so anyway, I did this a lot, and my mom and I, like, it was really just kind of the two of us. My dad was there, he was supportive, and he always has been supportive. But other than that, I do have family, but none of them live in the state of Texas. And so any trouble, any problems, anything like that, it was pretty much entirely on me to resolve this issue. And so take care of my mom, pay for things, anything like that, it was always on me. And her health started deteriorating at about the same time. This is big surprise. You smoke since you're 16. You spend your entire time smoking cigarettes, watching Ancient Aliens, and fucking around on the internet playing WoW, and you're overweight massively like she was. This isn't good for your health, especially when you're getting into your 60s, which she was at that time, because she had me when she was like 39 and a half or 40 or something. And so at this point, her health was deteriorating, and I remember like she had like a number of instances where like I would like wake up and I hear her like screaming because she would like I don't even really know what the fuck was wrong with her. I don't know. It was like a weird thing where like she couldn't see out of her eye, and then she had like some kind of like I think like a bleed in her eye, and then she had like I think it wasn't really a heart attack. It was like some sort of like variation of that. And I remember like her like begging me not to call the ambulance, and this is just like, and this is at the same time that The house is fucking, we can barely pay for the house. We're worried about getting evicted from the house. We have no AC.
Guys, I mean, that's a tough adolescence, right? Like, the parents, I think, are divorced. The dad's living separately. He's paying child support. The mom, I don't think, is working. You're barely scraping by. You're living below poverty level for most of the years. That's stressful, man. That's tough. That's hard. That's a tough upbringing, straight up, right?
Or no, we did have AC. We didn't have heat. And so, I would go to sleep and like the house would be so cold because I would just give her the heater. And I always viewed it as like, I'm sleeping out on Mount Everest, right? It's like, I'm cosplaying as Bear Grylls. And I remember like my glass of water in my room, there would have like ice crystals on the edge of it, right? Because of how fucking cold it was. And so I did that really for like 2 years. And so we had like basically like zero money. And so this happened, and pretty much like her health would deteriorate more and more and more to the point where she couldn't drive, she couldn't do X, she couldn't do Y, she couldn't get a job anymore. And then it relied on me more and more to completely support her in like pretty much all ways. And I remember she would like beg, like she was like on the ground like crying, begging me not to call an ambulance. And so this was very upsetting for me, by the way. I got to the point where like at this time period, I would wake up like every 2 hours or so with like a weird thing where I would hear her screaming my name. And this went on for maybe like 6 months to a year.
Wow, that's intense.
And also I want to say that like all of this stuff and everything about it, I don't really like, everybody in life has problems. And I hope that by sharing my problems, people can kind of see where I'm coming from as a person. I don't really care about sympathy. I don't care about people feeling bad for me. I don't really give a fuck. It doesn't matter to me. So I hope that nobody thinks that this is coming off as any form of a, like sympathy play. I've had things bad happen in my life. I think that in many cases they've been my fault. I've deserved them. But this is just what's happened. And so anyway, and every action and every outcome in my life leading up to now has led me to the position that I am right now. And I think that in a lot of cases, I'm happy with how I am. And you can't just go back and edit out all the bad parts and expect to be in the good part. And so at the same time this was happening, like a lot of my friends were obviously going through college, finishing college, having girlfriends, like moving in and everything. And I was worried about, number one, my mom dying. Number two, being homeless, and number three, at that point, I had always assumed that I would kill myself after high school. Like that was my plan. And Wrath of the Lich King came out, and I just got distracted. I forgot, and so I ended up not doing that. And because of that, I never brushed my teeth in high school. Never really gave a fuck about it. Never cared. And this caused, guess what that causes? It causes your teeth to rot out. And so a lot of my teeth had to be, I had to get fillings and everything as a teenager. And my dad paid for a lot of it, which he was very, very unhappy about. And so these fillings would come out. This is what happens with fillings or anything like that. And they did come out, and then, of course, my teeth deteriorated naturally because I love soda. I love drinking soda. I've got a soda right over there. Went to McDonald's earlier today. Really, really like soda. Like it so much that right now I only have 5 real teeth left in my whole mouth. And I think you start with like 32, which is kind of crazy to think. And so anyway, this happened, and all my teeth were starting to rot out. I was not able to eat with one side of my mouth. I would have these toothaches that would get so bad that I would pass out from the pain. And I eventually had to go to like the, basically, if you're like, the people that really get fucked by medical bills are the people that are in the middle of like, economically, because if you're broke, like they'll do shit for you for like $10. If they can get anything, they'll do it. And so I had a program like that. And so they would have to pull out my teeth kind of regularly. And that's how I lost. I have no back teeth at all. That's why if you look at my jawline, it's very different than if you look at it from like, high school or like by the age of like 19 or 20. It's completely changed because I've lost all of my teeth and my jaw bone is like pretty much rotted out. And so, which as far as I know is unfixable, at least in the way that I have this problem. There's a separate problem that is fixable. I don't have that one. I talked to a dentist about it. So it's basically like irreversibly fucked. And so anyway, this happened, and it was not a great time.
Has anyone in chat either felt yourself or had a friend from a really young age that decided that when they get old, they're gonna kill themselves. I have one of my best friends is like this. Asman just said it, and I've known a couple of people like that. Yes. What is? It's just so sad. None of them have actually done it yet, and I think about it all the time. Like, it's that upbringing? I'm trying to understand. Like, I try to understand more, and it's so tough for me. Like, for people that you love, right? And it's like, how could you say that, right? It's heartbreaking. A childhood of anxiety. Yeah. 3 out of 3 people I know who've said that had they didn't have a mother and a father in the traditional sense. There was some type of split early on. I was lucky enough to have a mother and a father, so maybe there's something related, but it's hard for me to understand, I think, and it's really hard to wrap my mind around. It's tough, man. Really tough. A lot of contributing factors. It's not just one reason, yeah. Yeah, let's keep playing. That's a big one. That's a tough one. Yeah.
And at that point, I had to completely, like, pretty much give up the notion and give up the dream of ever being a normal person. At that point, I could feel myself no longer being the same as anybody else, right? And I actually, for a while, I really hated it, but then I got used to it, and then I embraced it, and I think that's where I am now. So I would say, like, that was from, like, ages, like, I would say, 13 to, I don't know, like 21, somewhere around there, right? Then after that, I started doing other stuff. I was playing WoW, I was making videos, I was doing other random things, right? And my mom's, like, health pretty much would always get worse, and that's just, that's just the way it is when you get older, right? And so I would have to do my best to, like, take care of her, and worked at the IRS for a while, tried to work at Sam's Club, didn't really go very well. But overall, I, tried to go back to college. I do have a college degree, if you can imagine that. But learned more from business from WoW than I did from business school. And so then I spent that time, and then this was all the time, like, me not knowing if she would, every day I would wake up and, like, hear that voice in my mind, and, like, it was really, really bad. And this is just something I would do all the time, and I try to always make the best out of things. I try to just, not think about it, but, looking back on it, things were very, very bad. And so anyway, fast forward a little bit later, and that's whenever I was, like, going back to college. I thought that I would just, basically have a shitty job, play video games for my whole life, and then die, right? And then I got a shitty job, and I realized the shitty job is actually a lot more shitty than I thought it would be. So then I remember it was probably, like, one of the best things that ever happened to me, is that I took this job at Sam's Club, and I hated it so much, it actually encouraged me to make myself a better person, if you can imagine that. And so I signed up to go back to university and finish another degree that I was working on so I could go to law school. Actually, I wanted to be a lawyer, basically because I had a friend in high school. We would always play Magic the Gathering, and I could see him. He would always manipulate the rules to come out ahead and win different, like, arguments in Magic the Gathering. And I was like, I bet lawyers do that in real life. I should do that myself. And so that was always my motivation. And anyway, I did that, and then, a number of other things, random things that are not, I would say, like, YouTube or public safe that I did. And then after that, I started doing YouTube, and then I started doing YouTube, and I focused on that. And I would put videos out of the way that I lived, etc. And people would always find it to be very funny or, like, weird, and everybody would, like, really, like, there were a lot of people, and this is true even now, people that, like, hate me for living the way that I do. And I think that really, people look at a person like me, and they see a person who has a number of things in their life that they wish they had, but I've done basically if you look at it from like, what do they tell you to do when you're growing up? I used every single thing to do as a checklist of what not to do, right? And so, I think that a lot of people could be a little bit, annoyed by that. And so I can see why, and et cetera. And it is disgusting, by the way. And so, missing half your teeth and, living in a dump with a dead rat alarm clock. You don't know if your mom's going to be alive that day. You've got no money. You have to support her. She's never going to be able to support herself. And things are just basically slowly getting worse and worse and worse.
It's a lot.
And I started doing YouTube, and things started doing a little bit better. I started doing streaming. Things were doing better then. I went to get my teeth fixed, because if you look at my old videos, a lot of my old videos, you'd notice that I smile. When I smile, I cover my mouth when I smile. The reason for that is this isn't Saikuno, where I don't like my smile. Yeah, well, I don't like my smile. It's not because I think it's ugly. It's because I didn't have any fucking teeth. And I didn't want people to see that. And so that's why I would cover my mouth a lot whenever I first started streaming. And so this happened to me for a long time. I go to the dentist, and they tell me it's going to be like around $50,000 to get all my teeth fixed and everything taken care of. Then I thought, maybe, because it was the first time at that point where I kind of like, it really hit me that I had like irreversibly and irreparably damaged my life in a way that I couldn't just immediately like undo. Because like as a kid, usually you make a mistake where it's like you scrape your knee and then, well, you put a bandage on and it gets better. But with this, it never was going to get better, and it's only going to get worse, and it certainly has, by the way. And so anyway, I did want to kill myself, but I decided instead of killing myself, I'd do something even worse. I'd start streaming. And I started streaming because I wasn't really making enough money. And everybody says, oh, well, I started streaming because, I like interacting with people. It's because I was lonely. Well, I started streaming for money. I needed some fucking money. And so that's what I did.
That's crazy, man. I always tell people the opposite. I'm like, if you're getting into streaming for money, like do like anything else, right? Like, but that's funny because Asmon's one of the top streamers on the platform, and he started for money. That's like crazy to hear. The reason I usually tell people to not stream if you want to just make money is because if you take the average amount a Twitch partner makes, it's probably a bit less than minimum wage, and that's the partners, not the affiliates, and not like that's the partners. And it's like, so you gotta love it, right? It's like you gotta love it if that's what you want to do. But not only that, if you want to start getting into streaming, you would probably want to expect your first month you'd make $0. Your second month you'd probably make $0. Your third month you'd probably make about $0. Like maybe like 6 months in, you'd have like some of an inkling of a couple $100 from like residual things, and then from there maybe like zero for a while again. So it's like this is a very long-term play of a passion that like maybe will never work out, or maybe it will. Like that's kind of how I think about it. So that's fascinating to hear the exact opposite, right? From Asmon. So,
and I was like, guys, we've got a donation goal of $100, and if we get $100, I'm gonna go to Wendy's tomorrow. And I would always meme it up, $1 equals one donut, and it's like, I would make a bunch of money, and it was great. And things actually did go very well. I streamed every single night. I was very dedicated. I tried to make things as entertaining as possible, and I did what I tried to do best, right? And things kind of got better and they improved. This happened just at pretty much the same time. A lot of my friends were kind of evolving and going past, like college, like they were getting careers, getting married, having kids. And like now I'm pretty sure, I'm thinking to myself, I'm pretty sure every single friend that I have is either married or has a kid, which is kind of crazy considering that, I'm sitting here doing what I'm doing. But it is kind of weird. I'm 34 now, which is honestly a fucking shock. Like I can't believe it. I don't feel 34. I feel like I'm still 16. But I look in the mirror, I see my hair.
Happy birthday to Agamar in the chat. There it is. Dude, I feel the same way as Asmon. For someone who grew up playing like 16 hours a day of World of Warcraft, and I would think back then, like, I wonder what life will be like when I'm 31. I was like, I wonder what life will be like when I'm 31. And you have this like idea or vision in your head. if you asked me when I was like 12 if I would still be playing WoW, I would have been like, no way. Like, what? World of Warcraft? Like the game I'm playing right now? No way. And like, yeah, we out here, baby. We're playing WoW, dude. We're getting it done.
I think to myself, oh my god, wait a minute, I think I'm actually 34. And if I'm really not sure, I talk to somebody who's 16, and then I realize, hold up, wait a minute, no, actually I am 34. Because there's no better way to realize that you're actually older until you talk to somebody who's actually younger.
That's a good point.
At least it is for me.
Yeah.
So anyway, you know, my stream was doing very well. My social life really, I pretty much like stopped interacting with a lot of friends of mine, because I focused pretty much just on streaming and on making this as much as possible. And also, I'm a very introverted person in a lot of ways. I like being alone. I don't like people talking to me a whole lot. I don't like phone calls. I don't like interacting with people. I don't like going out. If you guys might notice this, right? If it's, you know, a mystery or secret. And so, you know, big surprise, that's how it was. And then, you know, I started streaming. My stream started doing better. And there was a degree of like stress that created, but and in terms of like my lifestyle and everything, living that way, I never really thought about it at that point. I never really worried too much about like kind of how you know, people would perceive me. I always viewed myself as like, you know, this is just who I am. This is what I am. That's all there is to it. And I never really took, and I still don't really take any criticism or any negativity to heart. I don't take it personally. I don't really care a whole lot. And so at the end of the day, it never really bothered me, and people thought it was funny. And so, you know, I had like a snack box, and there were like maggots in the snack box, and I would eat the food with the maggots inside of the food. It was like honey buns, which were...
No. Dude, what? Oh, gosh. No. Dude, that makes me want to throw up. There's no way. Holy crap. Here's the thing about lifestyle. Normally, like for me, it's like, bro, live the way you want to live. That's fine, right? As long as it's not hurting anyone else, go for it. For me, it's if you care about someone, you want to see them healthy. And when you see someone living with literal mold and you know, dead animals and, you know, eating maggots and stuff like that, it's like there's going to be consequences. Like you can't have mold around humans and have it be like a great outcome, right? It's like the #1 cause of disease. Like you do not, like, right? Like get out of there, right? So for me, as someone, you know, who I'm not like friends with Asmongold, but, you know, I generally care about him. I've watched his stream, you know, like I want to see him do well, or at least as well as he can do. So it's like, yeah, like if you want to be messy, sure, whatever, like live your life. But like if you want to just one for one get yourself sick, then it's like, you know, it's a bit concerning.
Really, really good. And to be honest, I didn't even really taste them. So it was pretty much the same thing. It didn't even bother me. And so, you know, I had like taken at that point, you know, my teeth had like totally rotten out. And so I had taken pliers to like break pieces of my teeth off, even, you know, like if I wasn't able to speak during a stream, because like a point was like, you know, poking my tongue, or like, you know, playing a game or something like that, talking to people. And so I still have the pliers actually in my bathroom from all the way back then. And so this had happened for quite a while. And then I guess you could...
Bro, I had braces growing up, and I don't know exactly. I don't want to get into like the exact specifics. We moved orthodontists, and then the new orthodontist said they can't take out the old braces that the old orthodontist put on for whatever reason, because they do it differently or something. And the old orthodontist said he wasn't going to take it off. So we were in the kitchen one day, and I just laid back on the kitchen counter, and my dad got the pliers from the garage. And my dad took the pliers and just popped off all of the braces with the pliers. No, it hurt. I remember it hurt. It hurt. My mom was like super against it, and my dad's like, I could do that. My dad was like, I can definitely do that. So, I mean, I don't know. It worked, I guess. Yeah. I don't know.
Say, I started, like, I guess, like, the second phase of my life of, like, trying to remove myself from, like, caring about, being worried about the outcome of other people. It was always very scary for me to know that, like, you know, my mom would die one day, right? This was extremely scary. This was, like, the one thing that I didn't want to have happen. And in 2021, it did happen. And so leading up to that was incredibly stressful. She pretty much did everything that she possibly could. I love her, but she did every fucking thing that she could to make things as absolutely unpleasant as possible. Oh my God. And so, yes. It was very frustrating to deal with somebody like that. But, you know, she was 70 at the time. And so it really, really, really hurt. And it's, you know, like, she was the main person in my life that I was, like, most connected to. And, like, you know, this is the person that I had, like, the deepest emotional connection with. And to just lose them, and it was kind of random, by the way. Like, things got worse over time, but it was nothing like at the very end there. It just kind of went off a fucking cliff. And so this happened, and then at about the same time, a little bit after that, I also broke up with a long-term girlfriend at the time. And then at the same time, my dad got so fucking sick that we were, like, talking about writing his will, like, and he's still setting all that up because he doesn't know if this shit's going to happen again, right? What's going to be? And he's 77 too, so it's rough, right? It's bad. And he went through pneumonia 4 fucking times in a year. And so, and he's still getting around, you know, going to the store, etc. But I got to help him every once in a while too, right? And it is what it is. And so, again, and you know, we don't have any family around here. And so, you know, if something goes wrong, if something's bad, there's one person who's responsible for that, and that's me. And so that's a lot of stress. It's a lot of pressure, right? And, you know, I had all 3 of these things happen to me within pretty much 1 year of each other, maybe 2 years with the thing with my dad. And so at that point, I began the second part of, I think that, like, you know, my, you know, abstraction of reality is that I've tried my best to remove myself from caring about other people as much as I can, and not caring about them in terms of, like, you know, being friendly. Of course I'm friendly with people, but being emotionally attached to having them in my life, being emotionally attached to the way that they feel about me and how they're doing. It's been very hard for me to actually have any sort of feelings towards people when it seems like everybody that was important to me is fucking dying. And so this, or leaving me, right? Or breaking up with me. So at a certain point, you just kind of get away from that. And then after that, you know, we entered into, I would say, the third phase, which is the point where I
phase 3,
you know, lose the connection with myself. And I think that whenever I finally do that, I think that maybe one day I might be happy again. And what I mean by that is that I always worry about, like, dying and, you know, all this stuff, and, like, how I'm, you know, like, where do you go, what happens, right? And it would be very, very stressful for me. And I usually reassure myself by reminding myself that I'm just a hyper-intelligent monkey that probably evolved too fast. And I think that we all are, by the way. It's not like I'm special. And that usually is oddly reassuring. But otherwise, it was very stressful for me, and I did think that I was farther along. I thought I would be okay with dying until I thought that I was dying, and then I realized that I wasn't as far along as I thought I was. Recently, whenever I had a blood pressure reading of 194, which is a high score so far. You know, at least so far.
Okay.
And so things have been improving since then, by the way. But anyway, this has been, you know, my life, and I stopped really caring about anything. I stopped caring about what happens to me. I stopped caring about what happens to other people. I stopped caring about what people think about me. And I felt that the more that I have, the more that I've cared about things, the more unhappy I've been as a person. And I think that this is true on, like, a base level. Is this some sort of pathological problem for me? I think it probably is. But at the end of the day, this is the best way that I know to cope with it, right? And so for me, the way that I live and everything is a manifestation of that. It's always been this way for me. My mom, like, growing up, things were pretty messy, etc. But then even now, things are worse than they ever have been in terms of, like, being messy. But, you know, I never really think about it or worry about it because I'm just never really... It doesn't even cross my mind. I'm thinking about things that I want to think about. I'm doing things.
There's so much to unpack here, man. Gosh, we're 30 minutes into the video. I see the servers got extended another hour. I mean, he just said a lot of different things, right? His unsureness of where he's going when he dies made him not care about what happens to him and what happens to other people. He just stopped caring altogether. Like, I mean, geez, that's deep. I read a really good book last year called Brothers Karamazov from Dostoevsky. And one of the characters in the book, named Ivan, talked about when you think that anything is permitted, and then one of the other characters, Smerdyakov, took that for what it was, and then, I don't want to spoil the book, but ended up doing something really bad. And that was kind of like the premise of the entire book. And it's like, huh. Is that a good way to think? And if you think that way, what are the outcomes of it? Brothers Karamazov by Dostoevsky, yeah. Yeah. Have you read Crime and Punishment? Yeah, that's another banger. That's another banger. I mean, man, it makes you think, right? It's like, jeez. I haven't read much Nietzsche, but I think he talks a lot about that as well. Definitely some books on my list. Yo, Thorvok, thanks for the tier 1 4 months. What's good?
That I want to do, and I never think about what other people think about me. I don't think about how it affects other people. I don't think about how they feel or anything like that. And it might sound like a bad thing, but it's made me a happier and more fulfilled person, not worrying about anybody else really other than myself unless I have to. And it's been very weird for me getting older, especially. And, like having like priorities change in your life and, having different things happen to you. And so I wanted to make this video and kind of like explain like kind of how I got to be this way. And hopefully a little bit of this can like explain, why do I behave this way? Why am I like this? Why do I have no shame with things, right? It's because I've lived a life where I've tried desperately to hold on to any degree of dignity that I've had and anything that I've had, and it's just slowly been taken away from me. Whether it's myself, pieces of myself, other people, or the way that the world sees me. I think that the more that I've kind of just, let things flow freely and not care about it, the more happy and content that I've been. And so it's an ongoing process, and began whenever I said, I guess I said I was like 13, and I guess the last thing for me to do is really to let go of myself and, just finally be content with my own existence for the time that I exist. And I'm not really a religious person. I'm not a spiritual person either. I don't believe there's any light at the end of the tunnel. I definitely don't think so. And I just try to make the best of being in the tunnel. And so that's why I live the way that I do. That's why I do the things that I do. That's why I say the things that I do. That's why a lot of criticism and things like this, of course I don't like it. Of course I don't like it. But it doesn't really emotionally affect me in the same way that I think it does for other people. And it used to affect me a lot more, but I've, gotten a little bit better, at least, at dealing with it. And so hopefully this can answer some questions and kind of give people a little bit more insight into my life and the kind of person I am. And that's pretty much about it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I have to cover.
That was a whole... Okay, there's a couple minutes left. That was a whole different route. I thought this video was going to be talking about him like, I'm going to be moving or something, or like, wow. Okay. I'll say this. I'm unsure of the stability of that mindset in the long term. At the very least, I'm unsure if that is a great mindset moving forward, to be honest. That's what I'll say. If it's gonna work for him, if it's working for him, then who am I to say? I'm unsure of that as a long-term strategy, right?
30-minute video. Actually, I was expecting it to be longer. So, that's my life story. That's what's happened to me in general. And that's why I am the way I am. And will I ever change? Maybe, maybe not, right? I mean, I honestly, like, you know, making a lot of money on Twitch and, you know, like the notoriety and everything, like people recognize you. I mean, I just, I mean, I guess it's nice, right? And I mean, sometimes it's, I mean, having money is way better than not having money. But in terms of, like, you know, having a lot of wealth, I live in my same house. I use my same desk. I, you know, for a very long time drove my same car. I eat in the same places. I do the same things. I really haven't changed at all, honestly, ever since I was like younger, ever since my streams got popular. And maybe one day I will, maybe one day I won't. At the end of the day, I think that one thing that I've always really kind of focused on and thought about a lot is that I have complete and absolute agency over my own life. I can do anything that I want to do, and I can not do anything that I don't want to do. And I think that's been a very comforting fact. And so people ask me, like, are you ever going to do this? It's not something I'm really thinking about changing right now, but in the future, I might change my mind. I just don't know yet. And so I just try to live life and enjoy it and, you know, be able to experience things for the way that they're meant to be experienced. And really, I don't care a whole lot about that either. I don't care about, you know, going out or having certain life experiences or, oh, you'll regret this. Well, who cares if you regret this when you're old? You're about to die anyway. It doesn't even matter. And so I've never really felt that way. It's just not, it's not in me. And so that's really my whole life. And that's why I live the way that I live. It's why I do things the way that I do things. And, you know, maybe one day it'll change. Maybe one day it won't. Who the fuck knows? Tune in next time to find out. Okay. So anyway, guys, hopefully this is a little bit more informative, etc.
That's the video, man.
And shit, I got an early end for the day. We had to record something early, so I came home. I figured I'd record this, and it's only 6 p.m., and so I don't know what the hell to do with myself now. I'm not streaming. I'm going to go walk around my house like an NPC. And so, like I don't know what to do. I'm probably going to go play video games. So anyway, guys, thank you all very much for watching. Thanks for listening if you've gotten this far.
So here's the thing, bro. Like, we're outsiders listening to someone be vulnerable about specifics of their childhood, their past life, their you know, current life, and hey man, like, who are we to judge, really? Like, we don't really know everything. We're seeing like a glimpse into someone's like most vulnerable moments that, you know, he had the inspiration to share. So like at the end of the day, like I as an outsider, I try not to be like, well, this is the way you should live your life, right? Having said all of that, I'll say it again, like I'm unsure of how philosophically sound that mindset is moving into the more distant future. Maybe it's like a decent short-term to medium-term strategy, but hey man, we'll see. Good watch. I was not expecting that. Yeah, 35 minutes. Okay, yeah, I was not expecting that.